You wake up as a commoner in ancient Egypt. You know that you're about to spend another day helping build the latest and greatest monument.
Wouldn't the world be a better place if things just didn't go bad? Well, what if we told you there were ancient foods and methods that made food so durable even a time machine couldn't make them rot? Let's explore. Number 20. Quirt. Walking through the streets of Central Asia, you may come across old women standing next to pyramids of white solid balls. Do not mistake them for knockoff cheese puffs though, because these dried preserved yogurt balls have been around in these areas for centuries. Quirt derives from the word for dry in many Turkic languages and is made of strained fermented milk from a sheep, goat, or cow until it's thick enough to be rolled into balls and dried in the sun. We'd suggest not biting into it without a second thought. You may experience one of the most sour tastes you've ever had. They're famous for tasting like crunchy sour yogurt, more sour than sour cream itself. Hardened quirt is also highly versatile. It lasts for years without refrigeration and can be eaten straight, dissolved in boiling water to create a beverage, or mixed into traditional soups. Quirt's portable nature and long shelf life made it an ideal road food for Central Asia's nomadic peoples. Due to its preserving qualities and long shelf life, it has even reached space as part of the Soviet Union's space mission as food for the cosmonauts. Number 19. Kangina. Grapes have always been a staple on Afghan dinner tables. In ancient times, when winter meant that grapes were no longer available, Afghans who were crazy about grapes had to get creative. And so they came up with kangina. Afghans developed this method of food preservation, which uses mud straw containers and is known as kangina, centuries ago. Afghans have been preserving grapes for winter using mud straw containers for hundreds of years, keeping their grapes fresh beyond the growing season. The kangina looks like two loaves of sourdough bread stuck together. Each kangina consists of two clay mold bowl-like pieces of grapes inside them. These are then baked under the sun to form a single closed airtight vessel. It's like Tupperware but from centuries ago. The fruit remains fresh for up to 6 months, providing Afghans with a taste of the sweet succulence of summer in winter. Who wouldn't want to eat fruit that's been on a sun-soaked vacation? Number 18. Honey. If you're ever on a wild adventure like Indiana Jones and come across an ancient Egyptian tomb full of honey pots, don't be scared of eating a spoonful. It's still edible after all these years. We're not joking. Honey was liquid gold in ancient Egypt, and until recently, the oldest honey in the world was found in an Egyptian tomb. This 3,000-year-old honey had been placed in pots next to the tomb of deceased pharaoh King Tut. Talk about a farewell gift. Under the right conditions, honey will last forever. It's antimicrobial and very acidic, making it pretty inhospitable for most microorganisms. Archaeologists routinely find edible honey in ancient Egyptian tombs. The stuff never spoils due to extremely low water content, very low pH, and hydrogen peroxide, made by an enzyme in the bees' stomachs. Just don't go around looking for honey in Egyptian tombs for a hobby, because we're pretty sure that's how people get cursed by ancient Egyptian ghosts, or possessed by pharaohs of the past. The lesson being not to eat mummy honey. Number 17. Hardtack. In a survival situation when your life is on the line and anything can harm you, the last thing you need is your own food trying to kill you. But hardtack can do just that. Imagine a piece of biscuit so hard it can break your teeth if you're not careful about chewing it. In a time before refrigeration or preservation, there were only so many ways food could be kept without spoilage. Salting and dehydrating foods was a relatively easy way to make them last. Hardtack is made with just flour, water, and sometimes salt. The dough is mixed, rolled out, cut into squares or rectangles, and baked until hard and dry.
Hard. Can you hear that?
Due to its low moisture content, hardtack can last for years if kept dry and away from pests. Hardtack is supposed to be incredibly hard. After 5 years of storage, you can still eat it. It just needs to be broken with a hammer. That's why hardtack was usually soaked in coffee, water, or added to stews to thicken it up. A simple way to use it when it's too hard is to simply use a cheese grater and grate it over a salad or into a stew. Number 16. Pemmican. Whether you're surviving a nuclear holocaust or just trekking through a forest, this ancient gift from the native Indians would always be there for you to ensure you never go hungry. Pemmican is a survival food that dates back thousands of years. Made of dried meat, berries, and rendered animal fat, pemmican has an almost indefinite shelf life. For thousands of years, pemmican aided Native Americans through lean, harsh winters and times of drought and hunger.
Onto a cutting board and cut into bars. That's it. You can vacuum seal it for a long shelf life, stored in your food.
Ain't nobody got time for fresh food on the trail. Just slap some meat, fat, and berries together, and you got yourself a meal fit for a mountain man. Native Americans shared this food preservation method and recipes with explorers and trappers, enabling human exploration into areas previously thought unsurvivable. Once dried, the pemmican is as hard as hardtack, handy in times of a zombie apocalypse. You can either eat it or use the brick as a weapon. Now that's what we call versatility. Number 15. Parched corn. Parched corn was eaten regularly by American Indian warriors and hunters as an extremely lightweight, high-energy trail food. Parching corn was another way folks made use of the dried corn they had gathered from the fields to feed themselves and their animals through the winter months. Parched corn is a lot like the partly popped kernels in popcorn. You know, the ones with the white stripes down them, except it's a lot more tender. Tastes a bit better and doesn't get stuck to your teeth. It's kind of like corn nuts, except it's the real thing. Making parched corn is really quite simple. You just take dried corn kernels and roast them over heat and eat them.
Let that wait for about a minute. Let it fully soak up the oil, start to get warm. Occasionally you'll have a kernel actually pop.
But even then, there is a variety of things you can do with it. You can season it with onion salt or regular salt or whatever flavorings you like. Families would sit around at night and parch corn over the fire and then eat it as a snack, kind of like modern families eat popcorn. It wasn't unusual to be standing around talking and seeing someone pull out a little bag of parched corn to eat. Number 14. White rice. White rice is the grain that's been around longer than your great-great-great-grandma's secret cookie recipe. And it's survived through the ages thanks to some pretty wacky preservation techniques. White rice is rice that has its husk, bran, and germ removed, which makes it less nutritious compared to brown rice, but more shelf-stable. There's a reason preppers stock up on white rice. If stored properly, it will last at least 10 years, but potentially forever since it's dry and safe from mold and bacteria and doesn't contain fat, which goes rancid. We cannot promise they can make a nice sushi after 10 years though.
I'm going to be going over techniques the pros use so you can make perfect white fluffy rice. This is white rice.
Rice is one of the survival foods that become inedible only if bugs or other pets get into it. Store it in an airtight container or its original bag, and you won't have to worry about eating it 20 years from now. Ancient civilizations often stored dried rice in large clay pots or jars, which were sealed to keep out moisture and pests. Fast forward to today, and we've got vacuum sealers, mylar bags, and oxygen absorbers. Who needs mud and wax when you got space-age technology? Number 13. Beef jerky. For decades, America's favorite meat candy has been satiating their hunger when lunch or dinner is hours away. But do you know that it's the perfect food to have in your pantry in case of an emergency as well? It's the snack that says, I'm here for a long time and a good time. Beef jerky is a popular snack made from lean cuts of beef that's been seasoned, marinated, and dried. European settlers in the Americas adopted Native American methods of meat preservation. They use these techniques to create their own version of dried meat, primarily using beef. Today, most jerky is in bite-sized chunks, some a little bigger while others are a little smaller. It has artificial flavors injected into it or spread on top of it. It isn't really dried out, and it's soft to chew.
1/2 pounds of raw beef. This is what you got. Let's take a look at this.
It's not the authentic jerky America grew up with. Back then, jerky was so tough it was dark, almost black in color, and was crusted with salt used in the drying process. The salt added flavor and made your spit flow to help soften the meat as you chewed. Just don't bring up beef jerky in front of a dad, or you'll have to hear the age-old dad joke of, "What do you call a cow with a twitch? Beef jerky." Ba-dum-bum. Number 12, Mirin-boshi. When it comes to preservation, there's no one better than the Japanese. With their intricate methods and innovative techniques, they perfected the art of preserving foods like the mirin-boshi. Mirin-boshi is produced by removing the head, guts, and backbone, butterflying the fish, and immersing it in seasoning liquid primarily made of sugar, followed by drying. Mirin-boshi is also called sakura-boshi because the sakura, or the cherry blossom season, was the best season for the production, and dried butterfly fish resembled the shape of a cherry blossom petal. To cook mirin-boshi of sardines, frozen sardines are mainly used. From the defrosted sardines, the head, guts, and backbone are removed and then butterflied. During the drying process, the fish is topped with roasted sesame seed seeds or other toppings. While mirin-boshi might not replace your favorite bag of chips, it's a unique snack worth trying. It's packed with protein and the flavor is like nothing else out there. Plus, it's a great conversation starter at parties. Hey, want some dried fish candy? Number 11, dried beans. While these magic beans may never grow into a giant beanstalk leading to a castle in the sky, the magic in these beans make them last for years without spoiling. In ancient times, our bean-loving ancestors used the power of the sun to dry their precious beans. Picture this: a farmer, a field, and the world's biggest solar-powered food dehydrator.
And rinse the beans. Then add them to a cooking pot, add 3 times the amount of fresh water, and I always like to add a small piece.
Produce was dried by laying it out on a clean surface in a sunny area and covering it with a fine woven cloth to keep insects away. Using the sun to draw out moisture from these items made them less susceptible to mold and helped them last well into the winter. Beans have many health benefits. They have a low price, and you can grow them in your garden without much hassle. When it comes to survival foods, some preppers know about the benefits of beans. They are already stockpiling these legumes like there is no tomorrow. And if you think your grandma's canning techniques are impressive, wait till you see the pots they put those beans in. They sealed their pots with mud and wax. It's like putting your beans in a medieval fortress. Number 10, ghee. All you need is butter, a pot, and a skimmer, and you can make yourself an exotic ancient dish from India that'll accompany you to the ends of time and still be edible. If you're wondering what to store when the zombie apocalypse comes, then ghee is one pantry staple you're going to want to stock up on. Ghee, also known as clarified butter, has been used for centuries in Indian cuisine and medicine. It's often called the liquid gold of the kitchen. The shelf life of pure ghee is indefinite if stored correctly. For best results, put it well sealed in a cool, dark spot, likened to a cellared fine wine. You can store it for a long time, however, the flavor will change and develop over time.
Grow as well, even when it can cost around 3 times as much as the industrial version. That's because
in your home, if your ghee has been made correctly, unadulterated and all moisture and milk solids removed, storing your ghee at the back of the pantry 4 years will suffice. These days, we've got airtight jars and vacuum-sealed bags. No need for those old-school clay pots. Just pop it in a jar and you're good to go. It's genius. Number 9, bouillon cubes. While this one may not exactly be ancient food, it's sure enough to outlast you and become ancient itself. Take the essence of meat or veggies, pack it with some salt and seasonings, and press it into a tiny cube, and it could survive the apocalypse. It's like the culinary version of a superhero. They dissolve quickly in boiling water to create a flavorful broth. These little pieces of cubes that are less than the size of your palm are enough to make pots full of broth.
Quick and easy way of creating a flavor that requires no brain power.
Famous especially for their long shelf lives. They'll stay hidden in your emergency pantries and survival kits for decades and still be edible. To make sure bouillon cubes last for decades, they're vacuum sealed. You need sodium, especially if you're just surviving off water and not getting any from food. It is important to mention that one should avoid using bouillon cubes for more extended periods of time. They can cause headaches and chest pains due to their high content of monosodium glutamate. The bouillon cube can give you just that with a delicious broth that tastes a lot better. Keep electrolytes up and make the situation not suck as much. 8. Pasta. A fun fact about pasta is that an average Italian person consumes about 3 times more pasta than an average American a year. Now imagine if an Italian runs out of pasta in an apocalyptic world. All hell would break loose. That's why the Italians thought of many ingenious ways to store pasta so they can never run out. Whether you like the noodles, the elbow, or whatever new shape they come up with in the world of pastas, all pasta is traditionally made from wheat, water, eggs, and salt. In ancient Italy, pasta chefs would lay their pasta out to dry under the glorious sun.
I'm sure you will absolutely love it. Last but not least, top it up with some more Parmigiano Reggiano. And there you have it.
Imagine the scene. Rolling hills, vineyards, and pasta drying in the breeze. It was like a pasta picnic. Dried pasta was stored in clay jars or wooden bins to keep it cool and dry. These containers were kept in pantries or cellars. Today, pasta remains an iconic and beloved dish, cherished for its versatility, simplicity, and deliciousness. Whether served with simple tomato sauce or fresh pesto, pasta continues to bring people together around the dinner table, embodying centuries of culinary tradition and innovation. Number 7. Vinegar. Often referred to as poor man's wine, vinegar is obtained from soured liquid made from the fermentation of wine, although drinking it straight from the bottle would be the last thing we would want you to do. Vinegar is the elixir of life that can do everything from making your salad zesty to cleaning your windows. Using vinegar for food preservation likely came about in ancient India around 2400 BC. It arose as a simple way to preserve food for long journeys and export.
The fruit flies invade your home? You can easily catch them all. Get some apple cider vinegar.
The Romans drank a mix of vinegar and water called pasca. They believed it made them strong and brave. It was like the ancient version of an energy drink. When you preserve vegetables with vinegar, you end up with a food that can be preserved for long periods of time using simple ingredients. There are limitations to vinegar pickling, however. The vinegar matters. While most people use distilled white vinegar because it won't discolor the veggies, other types of vinegar can be used, such as apple cider vinegar, which has a pronounced flavor. Today, vinegar remains an important element in European, Asian, and other traditional cuisines of the world. It is often used in pickling and in the creation of marinades, dressings, and other sauces. Number 6. Dried fish. Whether you were a Roman soldier marching through the lands or a settler in an ancient civilization, dried fish was a food you could always rely on in times of extreme hunger. Dried fish has been vital to human history. They are light to carry, can be stacked in compact skin bags, and are easy to eat raw or to cook at short notice. They are provisions for people on the move. Dried fish is an excellent source of both protein and nutrients, and many varieties are rich in umami, a savory fifth taste, so only a little needs to be added to a soup or stew to deepen its taste. The Vikings were a fan of dried fish as well. They air-dried fish on racks, turning them into stockfish. Because when you're conquering the world, you need stacks that last longer than your epic sea voyages. According to historians, they used to be chewed by children as candies. Nowadays, dried fish is sealed in airtight packaging, often with oxygen absorbers to prolong shelf life. This prevents exposure to air and moisture, maintaining freshness. Number 5. Coconut oil. Coconut oil has been utilized since ancient times for its diverse applications in health and wellness. In traditional Ayurvedic medicine, which dates back over 5,000 years.
So now that we have this precious cream and custard, we're going to cover this once again.
Coconut oil is revered for its ability to balance the body's 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It has been used as a base for medicinal balms, promoting digestion, enhancing immunity, and nourishing hair and skin. Additionally, ancient Egyptians valued coconut oil for its wound-healing properties and as a remedy for burns, while coastal communities employed it as a natural moisturizer and sunblock due to its high fatty acid content. The oil's antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory benefits have made it a staple in various healing practices across cultures, highlighting its long-standing significance in ancient medicinal traditions. In addition to its medicinal uses, ancient cultures also harnessed coconut oil as a key ingredient in rituals and ceremonies, believing it to be a sacred substance that could purify the body and spirit, thereby connecting them more deeply to the divine. One of the supposed health effects tied to coconut oil is protection against heart disease. Some say coconut oil will help you lose body fat, especially from the abdomen or trunk, where stored fat is most harmful to your health. Other claims are that coconut oil may prevent and even treat cancer, boost brain function in people with Alzheimer's. Coconut oil has been famous in ancient cultures for its versatility and health benefits. Used for thousands of years, it was valued in regions like Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands, where it was considered a vital part of the diet. Ancient Egyptians utilized coconut oil for its wound-healing properties, while Ayurvedic practices in India praised it for balancing bodily elements. In Polynesian cultures, coconut oil was integral in health and beauty routines. Its rich nutrient profile and various applications in cooking, medicine, and skincare made coconut oil a cherished resource throughout history. Coconut oil, revered for its numerous health benefits, has been a staple in ancient cultures for thousands of years, used not only for cooking, but also as a natural remedy and beauty treatment, showcasing its remarkable versatility. Number 4. Maple syrup. Maple syrup is produced from the sap of maple trees, which is collected from late winter through early spring.
How long does this take to produce?
24 hours.
24 hours?
24 hours.
Maple syrup has a rich history dating back centuries, with origins steeped in Native American legend and tradition. The art of making sugar and syrup from the sap of maple trees was developed by indigenous peoples of the Northeast long before European settlers arrived. According to Iroquois folklore, Chief Wakus discovered maple sweetness by chance after his tomahawk struck a tree and sap dripped into a container, transforming it into a delicious syrup when boiled with meat. Early Native American methods involved collecting sap in wooden buckets and boiling it over hot stones. European settlers later introduced iron kettles, making the process easier and the product cleaner. By the 18th century, maple sugar had become a staple food and currency, with important festivals celebrating the harvest. Today, maple syrup production has evolved with the time, utilizing modern equipment like tubing systems and reverse osmosis. Yet, the basic process remains true to its roots, with producers taking pride in their craft and the unique flavors imparted by soil, terrain, and weather. From its humble beginnings to its current status as a beloved culinary treasure, maple syrup's story is one of enduring tradition and innovation. Maple syrup has a rich history dating back centuries, with origins in Native American legend and tradition. The Iroquois developed the art of making sugar and syrup from maple tree sap long before European settlers arrived. Maple sugar became a staple food and currency, celebrated in important festivals. While maple growing failed to take hold in Europe, it remains a beloved culinary treasure in North America, prized for its unique flavors and connection to indigenous heritage. Number 3. Spices, dried. Dried spices have been an integral part of ancient cuisines and cultures for thousands of years. In ancient Egypt, spices like coriander, fennel, juniper, cumin, garlic, and thyme
is because I prefer to use fresh garlic 9 times out of 10, so I don't typically reach for garlic powder too often.
Were used not only for their unique flavors, but also for their medicinal properties, as recorded in papyri dating back to 1550 BCE. Similarly, the early Chinese publication, Shenong Ben Shao Jing, or the classic of herbal medicine, written around 27 BCE, listed over 100 medicinal plants, many of which were likely dried spices. Sumerian clay tablets from the 3rd millennium BCE mention various dried spices like thyme, while King Merodach Baladan II of Babylonia, 722 to 710 BC, grew and used many spices and herbs including cardamom, coriander, garlic, thyme, saffron, and turmeric. In ancient Persia, records from the reign of King Cyrus, 559 to 530 BC, report a purchase of 395,000 bunches of garlic. And Persians produce essential oils from dried spices like roses, lilies, coriander, and saffron. Dried spices like black pepper, cinnamon, turmeric, and cardamom have been used by Indians for culinary and health purposes for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks and Romans also extensively used dried spices imported from the East, such as pepper, cassia, cinnamon, and ginger, with Hippocrates writing about the medicinal properties of saffron, cinnamon, thyme, coriander, mint, and marjoram. These examples demonstrate the widespread use and importance of dried spices in ancient civilizations, not only for their flavors, but also for their cultural, medicinal, and economic significance. Dried spices were famous in ancient times for their unique flavors and medicinal properties. They were essential in enhancing the taste of food and were often used in cooking across various cultures. In ancient Egypt, spices like coriander and cumin were recorded for their health benefits in medical texts. Similarly, the Greeks and Romans valued spices such as pepper and saffron, using them in both culinary and medicinal practices. Spices were also significant in rituals and trade, symbolizing wealth and status, which further increased their popularity in ancient societies. Number 2. Beans and legumes. Beans and dried legumes have been important foods for ancient civilizations for a very long time. Archaeological evidence suggests that legumes were among the first domesticated plants.
I think the starchy liquid from the canned beans actually did a nice job of making these creamy and thick, but not like dried out.
With traces of chickpeas and lentils found in ancient sites dating back to 8000 BCE in the Middle East. In ancient Egypt, beans were a staple food, often included in the diets of both the wealthy and the poor. They were also used in religious offerings, highlighting their cultural significance. The Greeks and Romans valued legumes, with references to lentils and chickpeas appearing in historical texts, including the works of Hippocrates, who praised the health benefits. In the Americas, native people grew different kinds of beans, like the common bean, which was first grown in Mesoamerica around 7000 BCE. These beans were often planted together with corn and squash, making a balanced diet called the Three Sisters. Beans were popular because they could be dried and stored for a long time, providing food during difficult seasons. Beans and legumes were famous in ancient times for their nutritional value and versatility. They were among the first domesticated crops, with evidence of cultivation dating back over 7,000 years in regions like the Fertile Crescents and the Americas. Ancient Egyptians relied on lentils and chickpeas, while Greeks and Romans valued beans for their protein content. Legumes were easy to store, making them a reliable food source during famines. Additionally, they enriched the soil, promoting sustainable farming practices. Their importance in diets and agriculture made beans and legumes essential to ancient civilizations. Number 1. Millet. Millet has been a crucial crop in ancient civilizations, valued for its hardiness and nutritional benefits. Evidence suggests that millet was one of the first domesticated grains cultivated over 5,000 years ago in regions of Asia and Africa.
Minutes later, open the lid and you can see the upma is perfectly done.
In ancient China, millet was a staple food, often used to make porridge and fermented beverages. It played a significant role in the diets of early Chinese farmers, who relied on it for sustenance. In Mesopotamia, millet was also an important crop, thriving in the region's challenging climate. Archaeological findings indicate that millet was cultivated there as early as 3,500 years ago, long before the establishment of large-scale irrigation systems. This grain was often grown alongside other crops in a practice known as multi-cropping, which allowed for efficient use of land and resources. The nutritional value of millet made it a vital food source, providing essential proteins and vitamins that supported the health of ancient populations. Millet's versatility extended beyond food. It was also used in rituals and offerings, highlighting its cultural significance. Today, millet is experiencing a revival as people rediscover its health benefits and adaptability, reminding us of its important role in ancient agricultural practices and diets. Millet was famous in ancient civilizations for its resilience and nutritional value. As one of the first domesticated grains, it was cultivated over 5,000 years ago in regions like Asia and Africa. Ancient Chinese and Indian societies relied on millet as a staple food, using it to make porridge and fermented drinks. Its ability to thrive in harsh climates made it a reliable crop, especially in semi-arid regions. Millet was also significant in rituals and cultural practices, highlighting its importance beyond mere sustenance. Today, millet is recognized for its health benefits and is experiencing a revival in modern diets. These were the 20 ancient foods to stockpile that never expire. Comment below if you think we missed something. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel.